justice and peace and equality.
Game Changers Magazine, Game Changers Media Networks, Voices of the Village podcast, where change starts with conversation. And we have former Mayor Robert Rickert. I'm sorry. Rickert. We have former Mayor C. Jack Ellis and current Bibb County Commissioner Stanley Stewart. Thank you guys for being on our show. Thank you guys for sharing your vision. Thank you guys for creating a proven system. All right, so this looks like a proven system that has occurred for over the past, I would say, 30, 40 years, in which we're trying to implement now today to modernize and bring Georgia up to speed to where modern transportation can be. Smart growth, right? All right, so the elephant in the room, as we would talk about, some of the pushback that people get when it comes down to transportation, communication, connecting different cities is crime, right? And you have people in Macon who say, well, we don't want people from Atlanta being able to hop on a train and come to Macon quick like that. We don't know their criminal system. Savannah, it could be high in crime. Tell us the pros and the cons of connecting these cities and the crime prevention in this area.
Well, I think, if y'all don't mind me saying this first, I think, we had this conversation prior to this because we're getting ready for the show.
Okay.
And when you and I talked, and you mentioned the fact that, a lot of individuals in Atlanta were mindful or fearful of the crime coming from Macon or Savannah to Atlanta.
Right.
And I shared with you that, guess what? That's the same sentiment of people in Macon and the people in Savannah. They think that the crime may come from Atlanta down to Macon or Savannah. And my overall situation of saying this is that we've got to talk to one another.
Right.
People are driving every day from Atlanta to Macon and Savannah. So if you're going to use that as your impetus for crime, it makes no sense.
Okay.
So I would think that's a moot point when it comes to this particular
because right now we have some people on board, we have some people on board with the idea, and some people off board. However, when it comes down, we have to come together. When it comes even from a political stance from Democrats and Republicans. Now you mentioned Mayor that under the Biden administration this was funded. How did a portion was funded to, push this initiative in Georgia? How does this play a role with the new administration in office from the Trump administration? Does this push this forward? Does it back with federal funds being cut? How does it play out?
I think that it's going to play out well for us going forward.
Okay.
Because the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which was passed under the Biden administration, was a bipartisan bill. It had support from both sides of the aisle because economic development is spurred by infrastructure investment.
Okay.
So actually what you're doing is you're creating economic growth, bringing in businesses and job opportunities.
Okay.
That goes directly to crime. I think it was our former DA that says the best way to stop a bullet is with a job.
Yes.
If you give somebody the option and alternative of a good paying job as opposed to a life of crime, I believe they take a good paying job.
Absolutely.
And as John Hope Bryant often says, there's nothing any more dangerous than a man who has lost hope.
Yes.
Because if he's lost hope, he don't care what happens to him. Therefore, he don't care what happens to you, and he'd just soon shoot you for a quarter. Just look at you, right?
Yes.
So economic development makes sense to Republicans and to Democrats.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's one of these things that brings us together.
Okay.
And if people understand that you got to invest in the infrastructure to bring in the jobs, to bring in the occupations and the businesses and industry.
Yes.
Look at the success that Georgia has had and the investments that Georgia has made under Republican administrations just over the last 16 years.
Yes.
You've got the Hyundai plant, which has got 8,000 jobs just outside of Savannah on I-16.
Absolutely.
Right. You've got other automobile manufacturing facilities in LaGrange, Georgia.
West Point, yeah.
West Point, the Kia plant that came in. You've got all kinds of Fortune 500 companies that are moving into Atlanta. Norfolk Southern, for heaven's sakes, moved their headquarters to Atlanta. All of that is economic development spurred by investment in infrastructure.
Right.
So I think that even in hard economic times, when the government's trying to find ways to cut spending,
Okay.
some of the spending that they see as good and wise and prosperity developing
Yes.
is investments in infrastructure.
Definitely.
And that's exactly where we fit in.
I would say to people who are concerned about crime, I would ask them to look at Gwinnett County, look at Cobb County, and some of the other counties, but those two in particular. The mistake that they made when they opted out of MARTA back in the 70s when
Right.
MARTA was being implemented. They made a conscious decision based on a false assumption that you mentioned, that they were afraid that too much crime would come from Atlanta into Cobb County, into Gwinnett County. But if you ask people in Cobb and Gwinnett County now, would they like to have MARTA rail into their counties and into their cities, they would say yes. So I think leaders have to look beyond their nose, if you will, their nose, individual noses, and look far into the future. Clayton County was the same way. Clayton County, I remember, fought against MARTA coming to Clayton County back in the day. What happened a few years ago, the county grew, and said, we need MARTA to come.
Yes.
Now MARTA is there. So I think leaders have to just don't look at the here and now, but look into the future and project into the future as to what type of city and county they want.
And crime actually reduced in Clayton County because crime had kind of escalated in Clayton County, but until they improved the infrastructure of transportation, and also with Sheriff Victor Hill, doing his thing, we saw improvements in that. Now Georgia is made up of 80%, almost 80% small business owner, right? How does this corridor create almost like an international hub for the state of Georgia for small business owners to service their goods for business and trade and improve quality of life for the entire state of Georgia? And it starts in the heart of Georgia Macon.
I would point out tourism. You are promoting tourism when you have inner city passenger rail that connects people. As I mentioned earlier, if Atlanta becomes the hub for the southeast United States,
right,
for inner city passenger rail, this national network,
okay,
you literally are allowing people to travel easily, conveniently, and inexpensively,
okay,
from Atlanta to Savannah to Jacksonville to Chattanooga to Nashville to Charlotte to Washington to New Orleans and to Dallas. You're enabling tourists to come in.
Wow.
From all the places. So you're bringing in people who will need goods and services and will buy goods and services. So to small business owners, it's like paving the sidewalk in front of the store.
Absolutely.
You're accommodating people and their entry into your business. If you expand your business to mean your street, your neighborhood, your community, your city.
Okay.
Or now you're beginning to bring people into my store. That's what you have to start thinking about.
Absolutely. And with Georgia being one of the highest small business hubs of the Southeast. Transportation and smart growth actually improves economic development statewide.
Which is
It's-
yeah, it's going to help it. That's
yeah,
what it is.
definitely,
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to smart growth, I believe we talked about right now we're in the stages of transportation planning. What does that look like? What does the corridor even look like? I know you brought a map in here, Mayor, and kind of broke everything down. But what does that look like for the citizens so they know where these corridors are flowing through, what it looks like? Because I know people hear about it through the news and through social media, but paint us a picture of what this corridor looks like.
Well, rather than paint you a picture of what the corridor looks like, how about I just hold up the map?
No problem.
One picture can be worth 1,000 words.
Absolutely.
And this is a Georgia Department of Transportation map, and you tell me which way I ought to hold it.
You can hold it right directly towards here.
Okay, right directly. This is a map, and as you can see, the bright pink lines are the federally designated rail network.
Okay.
The green lines that you see on this are the connections that they make to individual Georgia cities. So
Okay.
if you follow from Atlanta down to Macon in the middle of the state, there's a green line over to Columbus.
Right,
There's a
right.
green line down here to Albany. There's a green line down here to Valdosta and to Waycross. You're tying cities on second-tier cities into the mainstream of Georgia and connecting rural areas to healthcare, to jobs,
Yes.
to entertainment, and to tourism.
Yes.
Because it works both ways. You go to your job, they come to your town to visit. They spend the night in an Airbnb. They come into your restaurant. They buy a knick-knack paddywhack from your store
Absolutely.
in the downtown.
Absolutely.
Right. So it really has a network, not just here in the state of Georgia,
Okay.
but it connects to this national network.
Yes.
And with the new station that is planned for Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, now you're bringing the world in to the airport, onto a train, and down to Valdosta, down to Savannah,
Okay.
down to Albany, over to Columbus, down to Macon, over to Augusta. This is a network that used to exist.
Okay.
Back in the 1940s, before the automobile got so popular,
Yes, sir.
the primary method was either on a mule and wagon or on a train. And most people preferred to take the train.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what we need to do is to reimagine and remember the transportation system that was there, that served us well for decades,
Okay.
that is coming back into its own because of the congestion, frustration, and fear
Yes.
of driving, and the cost
Yes.
of buying a car and riding by yourself and getting caught up in traffic and spending hours. So that I don't care how nice a car is, you sick and tired of being in it, and you're ready to get there and get out.
Absolutely.
So there you go. It just imagine what we could have if we got behind this infrastructure investment in inner city passenger rail.
Okay.
And think about it from the standpoint of, in the mid-50s, when President Eisenhower instituted the interstate system, that was the modern day way of getting across the country, right?
Right, right.
So what we're seeing now with this, as Mayor Rickett just alluded to, with this is the 21st century way of getting across it.
Yes.
If you missed out on the interstate system in the 1950s, think of what your community is now, okay?
Yes, absolutely.
And how isolated you are, perhaps, from the interstate system. We don't want to be isolated from this modern way of transportation here
Okay.
in 2025.
In 20
And he mentioned investment. What we have to do in this state as well, and this is a political lift, and it's a big lift.
Yes, sir.
We've got to change the way that transportation is funded. In our Constitution in the state of Georgia says that the money that we raise from gas taxes and so forth can only be used for roads and bridges. Well, that made sense when we were getting away from the mule trails and the covered wagons and so forth. That made sense to designate that money. But now that rail is coming back,
Okay.
we should amend this Constitution that some of that money that's collected own gas sales can go back into all forms of transportation,
Yes.
and especially rail transportation, I would say.
Absolutely.
Very good point.
And you can also take advantage of new ideas because there's something called tax increment financing.
Okay.
And what tax increment financing can do, or a tax allocation district can do, is around a station or a stop, you draw a circle,
Right. Right.
and the real estate values that are there and the taxes that are collected stay the same and continue to be distributed as they always have up to that point.
That's important.
But beyond that date, when new buildings come up because they want to be close to the station and the stop and the dry cleaners that wants to be there and the building and the this and that, the increment that increases because of the station is put in, that revenue is put in a separate pot to pay for maintenance and operation of the railroad.
Which brings me to my point, Mayor. A lot of citizens may be concerned about the funding of this thing and how this thing operates. And Mayor Ellis, former Mayor Ellis, you just stated that there are federal funds along with state funds and grants in place to support this initiative, and it's not directly coming. Is it directly coming out of citizens' tax dollars? Will they be affected tax wise?
What I'm saying is that, of course, it's coming from the federal government. Most of this money is coming from the federal government. I don't know what the match is, 20% match, maybe local government,
Okay.
state government. But most of it is coming from the federal government. But what I'm saying, operational of this transportation system, in addition to what Mayor Rickard stated, we're creating these tax zones, but I think we have to look broader at what you can use gas taxes. The gas taxes that you pay now when you go fill up your car can only be used for roads and bridges, as
Okay.
per Georgia's Constitution.
Okay.
Well, we have other modes of transportation now. Rail is coming back, so we're saying that maybe we need to take another look at that. Like I said, that's a long way down the road, but that's something that we should take a hard look at in terms of funding for this.
And I really think that the state of Georgia may have already taken a step in that direction, because what they have done is to say that motor fuel tax for trucks and cars goes as constitutionally restricted to roads and bridges. However, diesel fuel sold for railroads to run freight engines,
Okay.
that can be separated out and used for railroad infrastructure.
Absolutely.
And now we're talking the same way aviation fuel.
Okay.
Well, let's don't use that for road and bridges. Let's use that for airports.
Yes.
And I think that the state can do this,
Okay.
and probably is inclined to do this, and may already be doing some of this. Is using using the fuel that's used by freight for railroad improvements.
Yes.
Whether
yes.
it be grade crossings, whether it be separating grade crossings or improving the tracks or whatever. And same for aviation. So yeah, there are all kind of ways, but help us to imagine
Yes.
how we can accomplish this. Because right now, if you own a car, you're paying 100% of the cost.
Amen to that.
You bought the car, you buy the gas, you buy the tires, you provide the driver.
Yes.
Yeah. So you paying 100%. So anytime you can get a little bit of help on that,
Right.
you
right.
better off.
Right. Mayor Sam?
No. Yeah, please, Commissioner, right now.
I'm sorry.
But no, I agree with him 100%. I think, as Mayor Ellis was saying, it's somewhat of an antiquated way of thinking about transportation, because as we get in, further, we are a quarter of a century into the 21st century now.
Yes.
And so, we got to change the way we think about things. This project right here that we're talking about is something that will bring us further into the 21st century.
Correct. Now, you guys have counties on board, partnered, ready to roll, corporations on board, ready to partner with this. What is that? How important is partnerships in getting not the counties, these partnership, private investors, public investors in the public. How important is this in pushing this initiative forward for the vision of what we have on the table here?
Enlightened self-interest
Yeah.
will help us more than anything else in building grassroots support for
Okay.
what we're talking about. Enlightened self-interest. We're not trying to get you out of your car. If you want to buy your car and stay in your car and drive on the interstate highway system, wonderful. We're happy for you. We're not trying to get you to stop doing that. What we're trying to do is to make an alternative for some people
Yes.
who don't have a car or who ought not be driving a car.
Right.
Give them an alternative to arrive at a different destination and connect yourself to additional jobs and healthcare and business opportunities and tourism.
Yeah, and you think about it from this aspect. I'm in my 50s.
Mhm.
You're in your 40s.
Yes. Yes.
So those who are in their 30s and 20s may be looking at it from an environmental aspect, you know,
Okay.
because they're going to be around a bit longer than we are.
Yes.
So they may be thinking about it. Well, future-wise. So to
Yes.
speak, you know.
Yes.
So it's across the board. My thing is to make sure that I stay in front of and nobody's asking me to do this. It's just the fact that I believe in this idea.
Right.
To stay in front of the people making bid first.
Yes.
And make sure they carry the narrative forward. Secondly, making sure that we connect the dots between the cities in Atlanta and Macon and Savannah, so we can put the finished pieces together and complete the project.
Man, this is an awesome idea, man. Ellis.
You know, people who travel a lot, especially if you go to Europe, Japan.
Yes.
You know, when you go there, I spent 3 years in Europe and a couple of years in the Far East. And when you go there, you realize it just makes sense to have passenger rail.
Absolutely,
I mean,
sir.
you fly into Paris, you jump on a train, you can go to the Mediterranean, you can go to the wine country, you can go wherever you want. Seamless.
That's right.
Seamless transportation. That's what this would do, as Mayor Ricketts stated.
Okay.
You can fly into Hartsville, you get on a train, you're in Savannah, you get tired of it, Savannah, you go to Dahlonega. Seamless transportation, and that's what this does. And obviously, it's environmentally friendly, and it makes sense. So, especially our young citizens, a lot of them don't even want to drive cars anymore. It's not that they care so much about the environment; they just don't want to own a car.
Right,
It's
right,
too much
right.
of an expense for them.
right,
So,
yeah.
I think it's time for us to really implement this, and I think with doing what you're doing here
Yes,
with
sir.
your massive audience, and just get people to call their representatives,
Yes,
to call
definitely.
their mayors, their commissioners, their state representatives, their state senators, and say, you've got to support this and be an advocate. And we all should be ambassadors for this initiative, because it's a good initiative, and it's going to affect generations yet unborn.
Man, that's an awesome initiative, man. And we're gonna have to go to another commercial break, but we're gonna talk about pushing this initiative forward from where we are today to our tentative date. I believe we have a final draft on the SDP coming in 2028. Am I correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. So we're going to talk about what that timeline looks from where we are right now to that time. Educating the citizens of the great city of Georgia all across the state on how we can improve our community with smart growth and transportation. You guys stay tuned. We got to go to another commercial break. Game Changers Magazine, Game Changers Media Network, Voices of the Village podcast. Again, where change starts in conversation.
Justice and peace and equality. Now the world they will see. That's why.